So after Sony Pictures' Godzilla failed to impress, Toho decided to bring back their Godzilla with a reboot sequel, Godzilla 2000 Millennium. Yes, a reboot sequel to the original Godzilla 1954, but set 45 years later. Not only was this movie in theaters in Japan, but it was also released here in the US. The first time a Godzilla movie was released theatrically here since Godzilla 1985. Wow. The plot involves a group called the Godzilla Prediction Network, who work to find out when the next Godzilla attack will occur. Yeah, Godzilla's just going around destroying everything again, all while sporting a new set of roars and a newer look. He looks great in this movie. The suit this time was dubbed Mechagodzilla. See Godzilla 98? This is how you redesign a character. I love his large dorsal spines, and Godzilla's jaw is probably the longest it's ever been here. The effects are insanely good, with some amazing miniatures and displays of pyrotechnics everywhere. This is a great effects movie all throughout. The one effect that doesn't hold up too great are the underwater bits where Godzilla's in CGI. Ironic, the CGI Godzilla from the late 90s doesn't look too great. Ha. At least when he's a rubber suit, it still looks excellent seeing him destroy cities. While that's going on, a strange rock formation appears underwater. It gets raised up and starts floating around Tokyo. The military looks over it the entire movie, until it finally sheds its rocky areas and becomes a smooth-looking object. Afterwards, it actually fights Godzilla. It shoves him into a bunch of buildings and causes skyscrapers to collapse on top of him. Then the object turns into this giant squid monster named Millennium, which just collapses on the floor. Huh. However, the squid ends up evolving into this giant rock monster of sorts called Orga. Yeah, Godzilla fights a monster in this movie, and it's a pretty solid fight. What's funny is that Godzilla's kind of the one who started the fight by just walking up to Orga and slapping him in the face. Dude, Godzilla, what if he just wanted to be friends? Godzilla just bites him a bunch of times. Then Orga bites back and ends up sucking some energy out of Godzilla. Yeah, you fucked up, Big G. Orga has these massive claws for hands, and a snake-like mouth as he can pretty much vor Godzilla whole. But that doesn't work out too well. Damn, Godzilla's not fucking around. This leads to one of my favorite endings to a Godzilla movie. So after killing Orga, Godzilla just goes to the building that all the main human characters are on, and one of them, this is so ridiculous, one of them tries to stand up against Godzilla, even pulling out a cigarette to look all badass. And then this happens. Godzilla! Oh my god, I wish that were me. This is one of the most memorable endings to a Godzilla movie for me, and I have no clue why it stuck with me. Maybe it's the overall scenario that just gets me every time I see this movie. Holy shit. Yeah, and the movie just ends with Godzilla wreaking havoc on Japan. No happy ending, just a never-ending reminder that scientists have fucked over Tokyo by causing another Godzilla to be born. It's kind of messed up when you realize that Orga was the good guy, and Godzilla just fucking murdered him. Wow. Yeah, this is quite an ending for a Godzilla movie. Apart from that, this is one of the better Godzilla movies, and a great start for the Millennium Era of films, as it would be followed by 5 more movies, all of which ended up being reboot sequels, minus the one sequel to Against Mechagodzilla, Tokyo S.O.S. So yeah, that was Godzilla 2000. I definitely recommend it. I really wish I could have been old enough to go see this movie when it was in cinemas in the States. That's just awesome. And we wouldn't see another Japanese Godzilla movie brought over here theatrically until Shin Godzilla in 2016. But hey, solid monster flick, great effects, good monster fight at the end, check it out. Next time we look at the second reboot sequel in the series, which I'm not too big a fan of, sadly. Godzilla X Megaguirus. To be honest, I'm not too big on this one. I don't not like it, it just wasn't really my thing. Even though the movie's using the same Godzilla suit, this isn't a sequel to Godzilla 2000. This is actually another reboot sequel ignoring every film between 1955 and 1999, and just keeping the original Godzilla canon. Okay then. The movie even opens with shot-for-shot recreations of Godzilla 1954, which is pretty amusing. The plot is kinda odd. Godzilla's been attacking Tokyo for decades, so the military develops this gigantic weapon to basically evaporate Godzilla from existence. The weapon is called the Dimension Tide, which is capable of forming a tiny black hole that the military intends to use on Godzilla to basically suck him up so he'll stop destroying Japan. But after doing a test run, a giant dragonfly comes out the black hole and lays an egg. Inside it is a freaky ass looking monster. This is Mechagodzilla, a wasp-like monster that is so freaky that he literally gave me nightmares when I was younger. I really don't know what it was about him that scared me. Maybe it was the red eyes or the high-pitched roar. I really don't know. The rest of the plot isn't too interesting. It's the usual shtick. The insect goes around evolving and Godzilla goes around destroying things. There's one scene where he's attacked by a swarm of tiny bugs that try to suck out his energy, but he just fries all of them. Apparently, these tiny bugs actually first appeared in Rodan, a film from 1956. So there's that fun fact for you. The main highlight of this movie is the final fight near the end. Basically when Godzilla X Megaguirus finally happens. This fight is a lot of fun. It's actually one of the more goofier Godzilla fights. I really love the bit where Godzilla actually uses his long dorsal spine to slice off Megaguirus' hand. We never saw him do that before with his spines. Megaguirus then stabs Godzilla in the crotch, ouch, and tries to start sucking out some of Godzilla's energy. But Godzilla yanks it out and just shoves him into the ground. Then he backs up and does a body slam! Holy crap, that is great! Afterwards, Mechagodzilla really just messes up Godzilla good, and even gets him on the floor. Then Godzilla puts an end to this fight, and I love the way he does it. Mechagodzilla tries stabbing Godzilla in the face, but Godzilla bites down on his stinger, and fries the hell out of Mechagodzilla, killing that motherfucker. I know Godzilla's still technically the bad guy in this movie, but damn it, he's still my hero. Afterwards, the military uses the Dimension Tide on Godzilla, and it works. Yeah, a happy ending this time around. Or is it? You can't kill the king. So Godzilla X Megaguirus. I'm not the biggest fan of this one. It's okay, but if I had to recommend it, it's probably just for the ending fight. The fight's a lot of fun and has a good amount of camp to it. Nothing else to really say about this one. It's okay. It has a good monster fight at the end, and also a pretty decent soundtrack. Check it out if you're interested. If not, then don't feel bad about skipping it. The next movie is another reboot sequel that has nothing to do with this movie. So I'll be looking at that film next time, which is actually one of the much better Godzilla movies, thankfully. Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, featuring Baragon. Jesus Christ, what a mouthful. Long ass title, but this is actually one of the best Godzilla movies in the Millennium Era. However, this is once again a reboot sequel that only keeps the original 1954 movie canon, while ignoring every movie made between 1955 and 2000. Why do they keep doing this? This is the third reboot sequel we've had in this era. Anyways, the plot involves a prophecy about 3 guardian monsters who will protect Japan from an evil monster, who just so happens to be Godzilla. The 3 guardians are Mothra, who's found in a lake somewhere, King Ghidorah, who's frozen in ice underneath the famous Japan suicide forest. I'm not kidding. Then there's Baragon, who just kinda appears. All 3 guardian monsters try to defeat Godzilla. Meanwhile, there's this news reporter named Yuri Tachibana who goes around looking for all the monsters throughout the entire movie, trying to document them for her news team. Yuri's a great leading character in this movie. She's really engaging in all her scenes and also has great chemistry with her colleague, Teraki Takada. The rest of the movie consists of amazing visual effects and some entertaining monster action. GMK is a solid movie in the series that I really don't want to reveal too much about it because I seriously recommend checking it out for yourselves. Though I will highlight a few bits. There's this one scene in the movie that's always fucked me up. After Godzilla appears and starts destroying Tokyo again, he passes by this hospital, and there's a girl inside freaking out at the sight of him. However, it seems like he's not gonna harm her after walking away. But his tail says otherwise. Jesus, this Godzilla is ruthless. What a memorable scene. The monster fights, like I said, are entertaining as hell. Godzilla ends up fighting Baragon first, and their fight is insanely well staged and shot. The effects here are the absolute best they've ever been in a Godzilla movie. Plus, Baragon is a really adorable monster. I love his revamped design. It's a nice upgrade. Speaking of which, Godzilla's new look, which is dubbed GMK Goji. How simple. I love this design. It's so damn perfect. He looks amazing. He's got such a great body structure, plus that head is beyond perfect for him. Not too crazy about the pure white eyes, but it does help at making him look menacing. Not to mention, he's got some huge ass T-Rex feet. Also, probably should have brought this up earlier, but Godzilla's main suit actor for the Millennium series was Tsutomu Kitagawa. However, in GMK, he's being portrayed by another actor, Mizuho Yoshida. Kind of a random recasting decision, but he does a solid job playing the Big G. I love how expressive Godzilla is in this movie. The animatronics across every monster is extremely well done. You can really tell what all the monsters are feeling just by looking at the way they look. For the other monsters, I like King Ghidorah's new look and roars, but this is probably one of my least favorite portrayals of him. He's not really all that memorable, and more just comes off as another monster for Godzilla to fight. It is great to see him though, but I guess I just prefer when Ghidorah's evil rather than good. Mothra looks awesome. Previously, she was portrayed as a cute, fluffy-looking butterfly, but here, she's way more moth-like and looks incredibly badass. I do wish she had more scenes. She makes a brief appearance early in the film while in her larva state, then next time we see her, she's already morphing into her adult form. I love this redesign, but she really could have used more scenes. All the scenes that she is in are great, and her fight with Godzilla is a lot of fun. The soundtrack here is incredibly interesting, composed by Ko Otani. It's a lot more digitally made, but there are some orchestral pieces included that do sound great. I definitely recommend looking this soundtrack up because it's one of the most interesting soundtracks made for a Godzilla movie. It helps give the film more of its own style and personality, and that's such a great compliment to it. Like I said, I don't want to reveal too much about this movie, so I'll end it by saying GMK is a fun monster movie that was actually made by the same group of filmmakers who made the 90s Gamera trilogy, believe it or not. Because of that, it gives the movie a very unique style and long-lasting appeal. This is a great Godzilla movie, and I highly recommend it for its fun human story, great monster fights, awesome soundtrack, and just its overall fantastic appeal. Check it out. Next time, we're gonna look at another reboot sequel. I'm kinda sad that it's not a follow-up to GMK because I just think this movie is so great, but hey, at least the next movie's really good too. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, the third time Mechagodzilla has been introduced. And of course, this is another reboot ignoring every movie made between 1955 and 2001 besides the 1954 original Godzilla. For God's sakes, why? Why do they keep doing this? This is the fourth reboot in the same era. Remember when continuity was a thing? That was nice to have. The plot centers around the military constructing an anti-Godzilla robot to stop Godzilla, who's been destroying Japan for years again. Okay, seriously, why does it always have to be Japan? The anti-Godzilla robot gets finished, and it's dubbed Kiru, and it gets sent out to fend off Godzilla pretty quickly after being constructed. Though what's interesting about this Mechagodzilla is that it's actually built around the bones of the original 1954 Godzilla, which is pretty fascinating. As a certain someone said, it's like the old Godzilla is fighting the new one. One actor I probably should have mentioned by this point was Akira Nakao, who played Colonel Aso of G-Force in the previous Godzilla series. Nice to see him get brought back for this new era. Anyways, something really odd happens with Mechagodzilla in the movie, or Kiru as everyone keeps calling it. During the first fight with Godzilla, Kiru gets triggered into some sort of genetic memory where it remembers that it used to be the original Godzilla, and the military loses control of Kiru and it goes on a rampage destroying Japan. That's a really bizarre concept, but hey, if it's a good excuse to see some practical miniatures get blown up, then I really don't mind. The rest of the movie consists of the military trying to get control of Kiru back in their hands. Meanwhile, Godzilla shows up for a second time, and the military are forced to send out Kiru again despite the fact that they might lose control of him again. They put a powerful weapon inside of Mechagodzilla that's capable of turning things into frozen objects, which they obviously try to use on Godzilla, but it doesn't work out too well. Despite that, Kiru goes after Godzilla in mano-a-mano with hand-to-hand combat, along with So Long Gay Bowsering that sumbitch, which looks awesome. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is another solid entry in the Millennium series. It's probably the one Mechagodzilla movie I would recommend to newcomers since I think they did a decent job re-establishing the character while giving it an interesting, if kinda ridiculous plot point. As the fourth movie in the series trying to be a sequel to the original 1954 Godzilla, I think they did a pretty intriguing job with this movie. We got a new Godzilla design. The suit was called Kiru Goji. Of course. I like this design. It's got some similarities with Mirror Goji, but with a new spin. Godzilla's got much more announced eyes, and a long jaw like the previous suits. I also like the fact that his dorsal spines are large again, making him one of the more unique looking Godzilla designs. I also love the look of the new Mechagodzilla, Kiryu. Not too crazy about the nickname, but this design is spectacular. It's a good balance between the tougher look of the 74 design and the finished look of the 93 design. One detail I like is how we can see the original Godzilla's teeth in Kiryu's jaws, further adding to the idea that this Mechagodzilla is built around Godzilla's skeleton. It's quite nice. Not much else to say about this one. It's one of the shorter and more decent Godzilla movies. It's got a solid human story, great visual effects, awesome monster fights, and a pretty good soundtrack too. And praise the Lord, the next movie wasn't a reboot but a direct sequel to this one. Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. Not only is this a sequel to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, but it's also a sequel to the 1961 Mothra. How? Well, get this. Mothra shows up and is actually angry that Godzilla's bones were taken out of the ocean to use to create Mechagodzilla. So her twin fairies show up to warn the people of Japan that if the bones aren't returned, Mothra will declare war on the human race. Yeah, apparently this violates nature or something. It's not necessarily clear why Mothra is upset about Godzilla's bones being mistreated. Though one pretty cool thing is that the twin fairies go to see a character named Shinichi Kujo, a character from the original Mothra who's still played by the same actor a good 42 years later, Hiroshi Kozimu. I love it when Toho brings back older actors to appear in newer films. Anyways, the military rebuild Mechagodzilla, who's still being called Kiryu, to try and stop Godzilla. Eventually this leads to Mothra joining the battle near the end, and we get ourselves a really solid fight. That's pretty much it. Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. is a pretty good sequel. There's nothing else to really mention. The Godzilla and Kiryu suits are pretty much the exact same suits from the last movie, though with some slight tweaks. Mothra is back to looking like a butterfly again as opposed to the moth look that she had in GMK, but the classic Mothra design still looks great. It's always a welcome. The monster fight at the end is where the movie truly shines. The practical effects are at the absolute best they possibly could be. Amazing miniatures and stunt work throughout. It still looks phenomenal. The finale is so entertaining and well worth a watch if you saw the last movie. Really, Tokyo S.O.S. is worth checking out if you really enjoyed Against Mechagodzilla. It's a good sequel, and a nice cap to this sort of mini trilogy of sorts that the Millennium-Era created here. Glad we got some sort of continuity between films in this series. I was getting really annoyed by how every movie in this era was a constant reboot after reboot. Like, come on Toho. I get the 1954 movie was considered the best, but that doesn't mean you have to discard decades worth of Godzilla movies just to make follow-ups to the original. Like, I really don't get it. On the topic of series continuity, well, the next movie is... I really don't know how to describe it. I can definitely say that it is absolutely batshit crazy, and takes all the previous continuities and just throws it all out the window.
Listen, kid. There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
Godzilla Final Wars. Oh man, how do I even begin to talk about this batshit crazy ass movie? Well, for the movie that was made for the 50th anniversary of Godzilla, and was also meant to be the last Godzilla movie ever, Toho really went all out to make this a total blast. This is seriously one of the most craziest Godzilla movies out there. I guess I should start with the plot? The movie takes place in its own timeline, and its own futuristic setting. Continuity doesn't matter when it comes to this movie, so just sit back and enjoy the monster flick. The plot involves a group called the Earth Defense Force who successfully trapped Godzilla in ice in Antarctica. Several years go by and out of nowhere, a group of monsters start attacking the world in multiple different locations. That is, until an alien force comes down to Earth to rid all the monsters by abducting every single one of them. The Earthlings try to make peace with the alien race, but it appears the aliens are here to annihilate the entire planet, and have taken over the minds of every single monster in order to have them destroy the world. All hope seems lost, but one last group in the Defense Force scrounges up a nearby spaceship and head to Antarctica. Why? Well, there's only one being on this planet that can stand a chance against every monster on Earth, which is Godzilla, who gets unfrozen about 1 hour into the movie, and you finally get your money's worth. What follows are some of the best monster fights ever put into a Godzilla movie. They're so damn fun. We're also greeted to a few familiar faces. Anguirus is finally here after a 3-decade absence from the movies. They also brought back Rodan, Mothra, not to mention her fairies are played by the same actresses from Tokyo S.O.S, the mantis monster Kamacuras, Kumonga the spider. Godzilla's son Minya appears and has its own subplot that doesn't necessarily go anywhere. We also have King Caesar. Seriously? He only ever appeared in one movie, and here he is finally back 3 decades later, just like Anguirus. Plus Ebra makes an appearance and Hedorah has a brief cameo. They even brought back Gigan, one of the classic Godzilla monsters, and he looks absolutely badass. He gets 2 forms in this movie, first with the regular hook hands, and later he gets modified to have chainsaw hands. Holy shit. Whoever was in charge of designing Gigan for this movie must have seriously loved Gigan. Guess while I'm at it, Godzilla's design. He looks phenomenal in this movie. The suit was dubbed Final Goji, and I love this suit design so much. It's in my top 5. God, just look at those biceps, and his ankles look so buff. This is probably the buffest Godzilla has ever looked in a movie. Fun fact, this suit was used for when Godzilla got his long-awaited star on the Hollywood Walk during the premiere of Final Wars in November 2004. That's pretty neat. Also, I love how Zilla is just a shitty CGI monster. That's hilarious. Anyways, while the monster fighting is going on, the humans fight off the aliens in these heavily CGI Star Wars looking sequences. They're pretty crazy. All the CGI effects in this movie are insane, but we still get to see the monsters in their rubber suit forms. This is one of the last Toho movies to use rubber suit monsters before switching over to CGI, so this is pretty valuable stuff to witness. Anyways, the human characters head inside the mothership and we get a bunch of kung fu fights. Yeah, the humans get some fighting action too. It's insanely well choreographed and it's obscenely entertaining. There isn't too much of it though. During this, we're introduced to a new monster, Monster X. Bland name, but a pretty unique looking monster, who puts up a pretty good fight against Godzilla. Mothra is sent to help, but Gigan gets set loose to take care of her and help Monster X beat up Godzilla. Then Mothra comes back, sacrifices herself by killing Gigan, then it's just Godzilla and Monster X, who transforms into Ghidorah. Alrighty then. Being honest, this movie was so insane up to this point, I was wondering when Ghidorah was gonna show up. Godzilla defeats Ghidorah, and that's basically where it ends. Yeah, Godzilla reunites with Minya, and both of them head back to the sea. Crazy how in what was meant to be the last Godzilla movie, they didn't kill off Godzilla. Then again, they already did that for Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, so I guess they figured there was no way they were gonna top that. And that was Godzilla Final Wars. Like I said, it's a crazy ass movie with such a crazy plot and fun monster fights. But I do think there are some issues that really keep me from 100% loving this movie. For starters, the human story kinda takes up a bit too much of the movie. I get that they needed to have a story, otherwise the movie wouldn't exist, but at a 2-hour length, I feel like 30 minutes could have been cut from the movie. That's my main problem with the movie. It is a blast, but it overstays its welcome in a lot of areas. Though, apart from that, I do think when the movie is entertaining, it is a hell of a flick to watch. My favorite scenes are just the bits where Godzilla is just walking around minding his own business, and the aliens keep sending down monsters for him to fight. I love how the fight with Zilla barely lasted 10 seconds. That's so amazingly hilarious. I love the little montage of Godzilla fighting Kumonga and Kamacuras, but my absolute favorite scene in the movie has to be the 4-monster rumble. Godzilla fights off Anguirus, King Caesar, and Rodan all on his own. This fight scene is so well done. Whenever I return to Final Wars, I always make sure I watch this full fight. This has nothing to do with anything, but I like the bit with the 2 guys in Antarctica watching over Godzilla. The comedy here always gets me to laugh. It's also way funnier that the second Godzilla is set free, he just kills these 2 for no real reason. I'm guessing he was just pissed off after being frozen for so long. The finale is where the movie truly shines with all the humans fighting mixed with the monster fights. It's the one part of the movie I wish came sooner because these scenes are so entertaining. And like I mentioned, the movie really could have used more of them if it was gonna justify being 2 goddamn hours long. The fight with Ghidorah is also great. I love that they put Godzilla's greatest adversary in his final movie for one final rumble with the 2 kings. It's always satisfying seeing Godzilla overpower Ghidorah and completely annihilate that sumbitch. Overall, Godzilla Final Wars is pretty goddamn fun. It may be too long for my liking, but the best parts of this movie definitely outweigh the bad. The soundtrack is also something I think highlights the movie. It has a very unique style to it, and it really fits the world of Final Wars insanely well. Love hearing the electric guitar mixed with the orchestral pieces. It's always fun. Godzilla Final Wars is a fun kaiju movie with entertaining monster fights, a decent human story, a solid soundtrack, and again, it's just overall good fun. It even has my favorite Godzilla roar. Yay! So while Final Wars made huge press back when it was released, it actually bombed pretty hard at the box office, grossing just $12 million against a near $20 million budget. While it is sad that the last Godzilla movie croaked so hard at the box office, it was for the better since this would end up making it the last Godzilla movie for 12 years, truly making this the last Godzilla movie for its time. And that was pretty much the entirety of Godzilla's filmography, all covered by me. Wow. I honestly didn't think I was able to do it, but I finally did it. I made reviews on every single Godzilla movie in the original series, and finally closed off the Millennium era of films. Apologies that this review took so long to get out. I'm not very good at staying consistent. Well, this means there are just 3 more movies to look at until the release of Godzilla vs. Kong in 2020. Those might come out soonish, maybe. They're all probably going to be shorter reviews than usual, but I'll still try to make each of them a decent enough length. For now, thanks for watching my Godzilla reviews if you've caught up at this point. If not, then good luck. I'll see you all in the next review, and thanks for watching.